Hope you're all doing well. We've got some fun stuff to talk about here. This is going to be interesting how the community responds to this, because this is not really what we thought it was. I think most people thought when they talked about Rockcracker back at Citizen, I think most people assumed it would be, people talked about it being Hathor V2. It's not Hathor V2. It's more like Onyx V2. The PTU was very crashy. So it keeps server crashing. So you can't really git file without having to go. But I was very lucky. I managed to get about 20 minutes actually in the new Rockcracker location, and we'll talk through what we saw there. I think it's going to be controversial, because if you were looking at Hathor thinking that's a great location for like org gameplay, like orgs fighting over locations and PvP and that sort of thing, this is not this. People were hoping for something like this. They were hoping for it to be a lot of people were hoping or thought it would be this. They thought because you're breaking up a rock, it would be Hathor V2. You'd have a big location. You would have few locations, and you would then have org battles over these locations. And there might be some inside the rock. The minerals would be, maybe they'd be like pure Keronite or whatever, that people do this. They do Hathor so they can get stuff for Wicklow. They thought that would be the case. They thought it would be a big location with big combat going on, something for orgs to do, and multi-stage like this. Obviously, Hathor is set in a few parts, as in you've got a ground location, you've got a space station above, and you fly between the two, and there's just lots of space for combat. It just isn't that. It's much more like this in terms of scale, in terms of the space that you're playing in. It's much more cramped and kind of corridor combat. I haven't seen a location as wide as this. It's much more. Some of the levels here, I haven't seen levels as big as this yet, but I only got about 20 minutes in it before the server crashed. It's much more going through here, little puzzly bit here. It's much more like this than it is Hathor. If we were to, these are the patch notes, which obviously get chucked onto Reddit straight away. They deliberately call it out. I've copied them into there, but they deliberately call out the idea that the Rockcracker dungeon is a sandbox location event based in Nyx that will utilize new asteroid mining stations to task players with rebooting one of these derelict stations so they can mine a large mineral resource at the center of the asteroid. Very cool, visually look amazing. This will primarily be a PvE focused sandbox activity, with players fighting NPCs and creatures that have infested the dungeon during the course of restoring the station's mining capabilities. For feedback focus, this dungeon experience is designed with 4 to 6 players, so it's not designed for like a 20-man org or anything like that. Some people are going to not be happy about this. Does it have an item craft machine? Yeah, that's another point. Crafting and inventory are not in. I've got that over here. A few other things. There is no inventory or crafting in this test. There's no inventory for sure. I didn't even look for the crafting machine, but it's not here. This was purely about the Rockcracker station stuff. And the number of locations is the key bit here. So again, this is pulled from that Reddit thread. Where it's again more like the Onyx facilities is that there's loads of locations, whereas Hathor has got how many locations has Hathor got? It's got like three different locations that you can do Hathor. And so if you're wanting to do Hathor for the resources, 4, okay, thank you. If you wanted to do Hathor for the resources, you are forced into those locations. In this one, it's much more like Onyx, where there is tons of them. So 60 exclusive ones. And so the exclusive ones, you can pay 50,000 credits to get a contract that will take you there. The contracts are on the investigation tab. So it's kind of been positioned as an investigation type mission. There's 30 contested locations, which basically means they're open to everybody. So you can just take the mission for free. And then 20 general ones, which I guess they're no missions that will take you there. I'm assuming. I don't know. Again, the amount of time that you can get on here was tricky. Dozens of locations. So no PvP, no org versus org, no Hathor 2. Yeah, it's not Hathor V2. That is exactly it. And for some people, yeah, your org is bored to hell. Some people are going to be unhappy about that. The community was quite kind of like, everybody was saying the same stuff. They were saying, oh, it's Hathor V2. CIG didn't themselves come out and like shoot that down. They didn't. That CIG probably should have done some better expectation management, I think, with this. The community was like, oh, it's going to be Hathor again. And it just isn't. It just isn't that. There we go. So it looks pretty much like this. This isn't like, that is how it looks. That's concept art, obviously, but it does look like that. Obviously, the lasers aren't on when you approach it. There's little landing pads in there somewhere that you can jump onto and then go through an airlock. A turd cutter. Well, yeah. So it does, from a location point of view, it looks exactly like this. There's combat inside. We'll talk about that in a minute as well. But I think they gave the wrong impression here. In the same way, like Onyx, there's lots of sections to it where you run through and have to do puzzles and things like that. I didn't get that far. I was up there, so I've been up there, and NPCs from down here shot at me. I was standing up there looking at what's below. It looks a lot better visually than this. The bits that I played, at least, they've taken it quite a lot further than this. The community does tend to make stuff up, but I think if CIG were really, really on it, they would have been like, just so you know, this is what it is. Because you're definitely gonna get some videos from people now saying, this is terrible. What? This isn't what I wanted it to be. It's not instance, no, but they've just done. It's like the Onyx ones where because they haven't got instancing in the game, they've just chucked in loads of locations. These locations can have sandbox activities that include interior missions such as recover item, missing person, and eliminate specific and exterior missions to recover cargo, kill ship bounty, support attack ship, and ship wave. So they're going to use these locations. I assume maybe that's what that means. They're going to use these locations, the general mission locations, not for the Rockcracker cracking the rock thing, but for those types of missions. We need something for big orgs. Well, this is the thing. So yeah, this is the problem we're going to have here. It will draw it over here. We'll visualize the problem. On the org side, this, and then on the other side, maybe more kind of small group, single player. It's a disaster for us. We have no gameplay, and now we get Onyx 2, the most boring content ever. Well, this is the thing. So if you're an org, you might have been hoping that this was Hathor V2, and so you would be up here, you'd be happy. Chris would be happy, you would be happy. I think in reality, with what this actually is, this is way more leaning towards small group, single players. And I think orgs, how do we get a sad face? I think orgs are going to be unhappy. I have an org squad of about 25 players and we're bored to hell at the moment. Rockcracker was our hope. Yeah, you're going to be upset. It isn't like Hathor where we're saying there's 4 locations for Hathor that basically funnel people wanting to do that content together so they have to fight. It's much more like a kind of bespoke dungeon experience. Yeah, so there's different floors, there's puzzles. The atmosphere is great. So the ice caves are very cool. So these are the sneak peeks and bits that we've seen. So this is the sort of vibe we're going for. This sort of thing. There's going to be puzzles. I didn't see any of this, but I did see one puzzle bit where I had to pull something out. I didn't know what I was doing. That's concept art as well. That kind of is the feel of it. But this image is the best kind of. This is in engine. And so this reminds me. Anybody ever played the first Battlefield? No. Battlefront remake, the Star Wars Battlefront remake. There were some really nice ice levels, like ice cave levels that you'd play on that. Anybody ever play that? And so it feels quite like that. And this is quite pretty, but there's a lot of kind of tight corridors. You go through an airlock and there's the NPCs like immediately there. It is going to be kind of PvE combat stuff. They talked about creatures in the patch notes. I didn't see any creatures at this stage. Creatures have infested the dungeon. I don't know if that means new creatures or I saw none. I didn't see any, but that's the feel of it. That's the sort of feel. It's kind of a mix between this sort of industrial feel and then ice everywhere. It's quite cool. If you like the Onyx stuff, you're going to love this. If you like the Onyx thing was my jam, you are going to be happy Chris Roberts. For a group of 4 to 6 players who like mining, this is amazing. This is like, as long as you don't mind some FPS combat, because there is lots of NPCs to shoot in here. This will be some people's absolute favorite thing that they've done in the game so far. It sounds like it was made for you and your mates. Well, exactly. And some people will absolutely love this. And again, don't take my comments here of that I'm saying this is bad. I'm just saying it's not what I don't think people expected this. Will miners be happy if there's so much combat? Well, that is the thing. There will be, and they showed it a bit at SystemCon, there is enough, there's a bit of threat on the inside. And so I probably shot See if I can work it out. I walk straight in and immediately there's a couple of people to the kind of off to the side. And then each little section that I worked my way through, there was more people. So you are going to be in pretty constant FPS combat. Again, it feels quite like the Onyx facilities from that side of things, from my experience. Me and my org were planning to blockade the Rockcracker station for some RP, but we're going to have to rethink that. Yeah, so you can't, because there's so many locations, because there's 110 total locations, you as an org now can't lock one of these locations down in the way that some orgs would have locked down Hathor. If the grand prize is the rock and they're shown it as being in space, there could definitely be org wars over it. Only if the orgs can get it to the same place. I suppose what an org could do, an org could take the contested mission part of it. So there's 30 contested Rockcracker locations. So they're ones that other people could turn up to. The game won't. If you take this mission, the game doesn't send you to an exclusive location that nobody else in theory will turn up to. So in theory, if the game, depending on how the game does this, if there's a Rockcracker contested location and an org says, well, we're going to go and fight over there, then yes, in theory, there could be org combat and org gameplay, but it relies on other people deciding to take the contested one. And it relies on the game not sending them all to different locations. Like if there's 30 of them, the game in theory could just send them all off in different places. But yes, there is a chance, depending on how CRG does this, in that maybe some people will, as an org, say we're going to just take the contested mission because it's free. This one costs 50,000 credits. We'll take this one because it's free, and we'll see who's there. But it just, again, the mass is not the same as Hathor. Hathor, there's 4 options, and so I said 4, I think, before. Whereas this, there's 100. I don't even know how I'd do this, but 30. So that's the difference. So there's for Hathor 4 locations. For just the contested ones, if did Rockcracker, there's that many, and so just the chances of fighting against people is just much lower, and that's only if people take the shared mission locations. If they don't, that's 30. If they don't, the actual total is 90, 60, 90. 120, so it's more like that. So these ones here are the contested ones, but the total is that. And so you can see, obviously, there's not the servers, the shards are not big enough to get you all together, I don't think, in the same place when there's that many locations. They've done it because we don't have instancing, so it's a load balancing technique until we do it. Exactly. I think that ultimately does sum it up. So this is a way for small groups to have their own large mining event without having to run a full org like Hathor. I think that's a good way to put it as well. Yeah, it's much more likely that you, as a group of 4 or 5 or 6, can take your mining ship with you, land at a pad here, land on the station, and then you can run through all the content that CRG's got for you, and then at the end, the hole will open up and you'll be able to do the mining like it's showing here. That is. I do think some people are going to absolutely love this. They're going to love this, and they'll do it multiple times. And in theory, with crafting coming in, which again isn't in this test, but with crafting coming in, you'd assume the rewards at the end of this chain, that what you get in the hole, in the rock, you'd assume this bit, they're going to be high quality minerals, and so they will be valuable for crafting, whether you decide crafting is that worthwhile doing or not at the moment. You'd assume what you get here as your payoff will be high quality materials. Obviously, the bonus behind this is it fills out Nyx quite a lot, so there's a lot more. There's things now to do in Nyx. So these stations are in the People's Service Station. So they've said here, implementing a social station in Nyx managed by members of the People's Alliance. This service station offers a safe haven with basic stock, restock, rearm, and refueling operations for pilots traveling through Nyx. They again are quite far out towards, I assume, towards the Key Belt, so that you've got somewhere you can set your spawn in. And the thing with these is they're very cool visually. They are built into an asteroid. So like it's like into a cutout of an asteroid. You've got some, if you imagine it a bit like the hole at Levski, into the side of an asteroid, there's hangars that are built in and then stuff on top. They look really cool. It's a new layout, so it's not just the old ones from Stanton reworked, as in it's got all the same stuff in there. So there's a clinic, there's cargo area, but it's still just a station. But it's kind of themed like the Nix stations. Yeah, it's got a clinic, so you can respawn here. But they are quite a long way out. But they are cool. They're visually cool, and Nix now at least has some quantum markers. At least has something to do. I assume the Kiga belt that they talk about here, there might be some mining locations in the Kiga. I don't know if they actually do have any. I assume you can mine around these, so you can in theory jump to one of these QV breaker stations, the Rockcracker ones. I assume you could mine in the Kiga belt as well. I didn't see a refinery deck or refinery bit on the station that I was in, so that will be interesting. That is a rough overview of what we've seen in the PTU. Like I said, I don't think this will be immediately going to Wave 1 in any way. I imagine this might go away, get fixed up a bit, come back for another Evocati test, and then maybe that might go to Wave 1. But remember, this still has no inventory or crafting in, and so this isn't like a full test of 4.7, and so who knows?